Hi, everyone, and welcome to Spirit Matters, our Bhakti Center podcast, where we talk about spiritual subject matters and how they pertain to our practical daily lives. And we are here with our wonderful Achuta Gopi, who you are here with us every day, and a special guest that was with us yesterday, but we're actually in India. We're coming live from Govardhan Eco Village, close to Mumbai here in India. Dhanya, thank you so much for being here, Dhanya.
So happy to be here.
How are you, Achuta? I want to hear your voice. How's it going?
I'm good. We are in the middle of a New York sunrise right now.
It's what time is it over there? It's 7 a.m.
7:05.
7:05. Yes. So thank you for everyone who's on the East Coast, waking up early, and Kimberly even waking up extra early on the West Coast. Yee. How about you, Danya? How are you doing?
I'm good. The sun is starting to set here, which is romantic and beautiful. And from our view, we can see kind of like the mountains. It's really picturesque. It really makes you
Mm,
appreciate the scenery.
mm, mm. Yes. So picking up from where we left off yesterday, I thought this was such a really, really rich topic matter or subject matter that we could get into a lot more, which is this idea of, we talk about this a lot, but like this idea of healing, this idea of working through the shadows, and how we spoke specifically, Danya, about yesterday, how it affects not only ourselves but the people around us, our community. And I kind of left off with this. I left off with this idea that I thought was really interesting, and I think someone wrote it as a takeaway. I think it was Sydney or maybe it was Domi. I can't remember. But this idea that when we're going through it, when we're going through the darkness, that it is it is affecting everyone around us and our community. But then simultaneously, we're healing. It's also kind of like it reverberates out into our community as well. And I kind of wanted to like keep things on a positive note. Yesterday we were talking about like poop and shadow work. And I kind of want to talk about like positive healing things today. And I wanted to ask both of you in your work that you do, kind of like success stories, because I feel like so
Mm.
much of the time we are talking about like the problems, which is important, we're talking about the generational problems and traumas and our conditionings in this material body. It's important to talk about those things, but I really wanted to hear from both of you. Danya is a counselor and has so much professional experience under her, and Achuta, you're just like someone that's a ray in the community that has been, so steadfast for so long, and I'm sure you've seen a lot of stuff. And I'm interested in the success stories and kind of what's
Mm.
been good about all of this stuff.
Yeah, I mean, can you hear me? Is that okay from here? Should I get closer? Closer. Okay. Um, I think people maybe like a common misconception, especially in my area of work, is that there aren't that many success stories. And I think that typically, there's also the business aspect where people want to keep therapy going because it's how they make their living. But, I tell the people that I work with, like, if 6 months from now we're finished working with each other, I consider that a success. Like, I'm looking to get fired, basically. So, and what I tell people is that it's not that you have an issue, you solve it, and you're done. It's that you feel confident and equipped to autonomously seek tools and integrate them into who you are. So it's the skill of seeking help, really. And you start that with a counseling relationship, and a good counselor will tell you, or a good spiritual mentor, anybody in a guidance position will kind of channel your enthusiasm and go, this is where you can look, this is where you can look, what do you think about this, this is what's helped others, this is what's helped me, that kind of thing. um, these are the tools that we typically plug in, and then allowing, first of all, seeing if it resonates, which is some of what Achuta was saying yesterday, which is just allowing the other person to feel really seen and really heard, and just meet somebody where they're at, and kind of dialoguing with them, like, am I seeing what I'm seeing? Does this resonate for you? Is this accurate? Am I reflecting this, accurately? So, the success stories, they're actually so common because success isn't that you're over it. Success is that you feel equipped to handle it, or you feel equipped to confront it, or you feel supported in your like digestion of a certain issue. So success stories happen all the time, and for me, I like to like graduate people. Like, you've graduated not into infinity, you've graduated to like the next level of your personal work, and if I can be of assistance of that, or if there's, you know, a way that we can, then awesome. And if not, then you're just continuing in your education. So I think if you see it from an educator model rather than like a clinical or like medical model where it's like something's wrong, we need to fix it, once that's fixed, then the issue is solved, rather than saying like, this is learning, this is growth, this is expansion, this is, you know, then it never ends, and then that's a good thing,
Mm.
right? That's a success story. So yeah, kind of like in that way, that's the arc that I see kind of evolution. I mean, Achuta, how do you interpret that success? How do you know when someone's come through the other side of like a shadow experience?
And that's kind of what I thought was really beautiful about what you touched on. What is our idea of success? What are we really looking at as the goal? There's no doubt about the fact that we are all spiritual beings, even the most non-spiritual person, because intrinsically the soul is a spiritual entity. So we're all on these spiritual paths, but what blueprint do we even have? What is success? Are we now thinking that the only way for success to look like success is you get like pure devotee status,
Mm.
prime time lecturing slots, like whatever it like, or is it like, I had there was a devotee, and once they asked Radhanath Maharaj a question, and they said, Maharaj, how is it that devotees who have been chanting their whole lives, who have been in this process their entire existence for decades and decades, you see they'll die suddenly in like a car crash or a plane crash or something tragic. But on the other hand, you'll see, and he was using like the word like materialists, and there are people who were just not even, they couldn't be bothered. But at the end of their lives, they have a whole crew of people who come and they'll sing and they'll recite Bhagavad Gita and they'll do a whole bunch of things, especially in India. Like they'll make sure that things are handled on the spiritual side. So he was saying, you know, how can we view those two disparate success stories? Like how can this be successful for a devotee, but then that be successful for a non-devotee? And I thought Maharaj was his answer was really sweet. And he was just saying, he said, any moment is successful for a devotee. So we hear like there's a heavy emphasis on how you leave the body and at what times and when astrologically within Bhagavad Gita. You get an entire breakdown. But I think that we shouldn't forget that Krishna also ends each huge big breakdown moment with, but you don't have to worry about that because you're my friend. So like, what's the success? You know, what is that goal? If we are doing all of this self work and shadow work and healing and all this stuff just to get it over with, then how different is it from us chanting japa or doing anything just to get it over with? Then that's not what we've given importance to in our lives. So when we look at what we've given our importance to, that becomes a success story. Is it our job? Is it like what's our priority? And so I think the biggest success stories for me are when I see those changes in perspective and changes in priority, from I'm going to give my best, my all, everything that I have, 16, 18 hours a day, to a job that doesn't fulfill my purpose even, but it's a job. That for me is like just doing life to get it over with,
Mm.
rather than, even if you spend 16, 18 hours a day, but your job is linked to your purpose, it's so much more fulfilling. Even if you have to do the shadow work and all the gritty stuff that feels uncomfortable, there's something about working on the self, getting to know the self, that is so much more fulfilling.
Mm. Mm. I'm thinking of thank you so much, Achuta. That really hit home, and thank you, Danya, as well. Um, I'm remembering in Bhagavad Gita, and there's a specific translation of Bhagavad Gita by Rancher Prime. It's like this little
Mm.
blue book, and I'm sure many of you have seen it or have heard of it. And in it, he has like little subtitles for each section. And this is a verse where Arjuna is asking Krishna after Krishna has explained one of the systems of yoga. And Arjuna is getting a little like anxious because it seems really tough and convoluted and hard. And Arjuna asks, what is the fate of the transcendentalist who starts along the path but then falls away? And Krishna responds, all these things. But I really love the subtitle, the title of this section. Rancher Prime calls it, "There is no spiritual failure." And I really, really love that idea of our kind of box that we've been conditioned with of what success is supposed to look like. It really sets us up like for to lose, actually. Like the more that we're pushing ourselves into those boxes or pushing ourselves into those ideas, we're not understanding, like you said, Achyuta, that actually it's like, this beautiful response from Radhanath Maharaj, that actually like there is no failure for a devotee. And it's rather, I really loved what you were saying, Danya, about like rather being equipped for our spiritual life. Like that's a success in and of itself. And I'm remembering this definition, I think this was from last week, but this definition of faith that Doyal gave. And Doyal's here, by the way, everyone. I forgot to say that. He's like,
He's like right
he's
there.
right there. He didn't just skip out. We just felt that 3 was a little bit of a crowd with the mic, so we'll take turns this week. But this beautiful definition of faith that Doyal gave, that it's being equipped in those moments of our faith being tested, like being equipped with the tools to meet our tests, right? Not necessarily like it's going to look like this cookie cutter way every single time. And I think, yeah, I'm wondering, I guess a question I have for both of you is like, what how do we advise people, or what do we tell people? Because I think so many people, including myself, are maybe stuck a little bit in like, it's supposed to look this way. Okay, I hear you, Krishna. Yeah, I know there's no spiritual failure, but no, it's supposed to be this way. This is the way that I want it to be. And I think it's so hard to get out of that box, or that compartmentalization that we do with our not only spiritual life, but with all aspects of our life, with our relationships. Like it's got to go this way. If it doesn't go this way, that means I'm doing something wrong. That means something is wrong with me. That means I've quote unquote failed. And it's like, how do we help people get out of that box? I don't
Well, I kind of like what Achyuta was saying yesterday, which is it first we got to check, is it our role to help people get out of that box? Right? Which is, what is my relationship to this person? Is this person looking to get out of that box? Because sometimes that box is cozy and that box is cute and I've decorated it all nicely and I have Pinterest boards of how I'm going to change it seasonally, and that box is my home, And I've been in that spot where yeah, discomfort is scary, the familiar, even if it's not the place I'm really meant to be, it just feels safe, and that's conditioning. So I think that the environment that is most conducive for stepping out of the comfort zone is one of just like loving support, which is, I'm not going to push, I'm not going to force. I mean, that's kind of Krishna's vibe. Krishna's not forcing anybody. So it would just be us modeling after these qualities and just basically saying, okay, if my divine source holds space without forcing and allows things to manifest organically, then I also have to have those qualities because we're made of the same essence. So okay, let me connect to that, see what happens to my spiritual life when I hold that space, see what happens to my conditioning and sometimes my comfort zone is moving people out of their comfort zone, you know what I mean? And my discomfort comes from other people staying in their discomfort. So I feel like that it's a big lesson. I think that that's a big lesson in anybody who is in healing or in guidance, assistance, in a position of leadership, which is sometimes people need a certain amount of discomfort, a certain amount of friction to create change. It's what, like in 12 steps, people will refer to as their rock bottom. Like they have to hit something for a wake-up call. And of course, we know like in the scriptures, there's like the different kinds of intelligence, where first class is like, hey, I see that pothole, I heard about it, and I'm not gonna fall in that pothole, right? And then the second one is like, I fell in it, but I'm definitely not doing it again. And then the third class is like, man, that pothole just keeps getting me. How do I? So, and people learn how they learn. But that being said, um, I think that many times in life, we'd like for it to be, I understand the lesson, I take the test and I pass the test, and then my faith increases. That's like super neat and super like formulaic, very linear. But it's actually exactly the opposite. It's first I have to have faith, then comes a test, and then comes the lesson. That's what I found in my work. That's what I found in my personal life. First is faith of like, if I do the things that my mentors, my teachers, my guides are suggesting based on loving knowledge of me, I trust that the right things will manifest. Then comes a test. A test is going to come and show up and be like, all right, let's see if you are made of what you think you're made of. And so that grows you. And then afterwards, a lesson unfolds and you're like, oh my God, XYZ. So I think letting go of the backwards formula and going with just the forwards formula, saying faith first, I think that that's it's an important approach because it allows you to let go of some of those expectations. It has to be a certain way. Faith means it doesn't have to be any way. It's your way, right? It's your timeline. It's your plan. I think that it's the one that seems to most align with love rather than control. Control is like, let me just get all these things right. And then, then we can have this loving relationship because then it feels comfy for me, right?
Oh.
And then comes pop quiz. And then yeah, so like, from a facilitator point of view, I like, yes, it looks exactly like that. It's like, how can I really approach this with the most like loving, compassionate, non-self-centered approach vibe ever, right? And like Danya said, this is exactly what Krishna is doing all through Bhagavad Gita, all through these things. Now, I also think it's really important to note what it looks like from the other side, because the whole thing looks like chaos the entire time, the whole time, just the whole time, even when it works out, it's like, whoo, huh, I didn't know that was gonna work out. Oh my God, pop quiz. And I think that it's important that we note that you're right, there is no failure, and this is exactly what, like, Arjuna's like, what do you mean there's no failure? It's like, no loss, no diminution. It's like, so how do I win? Like, isn't that like sometimes the next thought, like, even if the next thought is not like, what if I do something wrong and what if I fail, but then also, but how do I win? And Krishna's like, you've already won, dude. It's like, you're fine. But how do I win more? Like, see, you're thinking about it all wrong. You've already won. It's fine. It's totally fine. And for the rest of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna keeps it, but it's fine. Like, this is already done. This whole thing, this whole situation, it's already taken care of. You've already won. Now, like, try and just go with me through it, because you've already won. But do you see the people? Those people I have to kill? It's okay, just go with me. It's fine. But am I gonna win? Like, you've already won. It's fine. Like, chapters later. So, and then there's also pop quiz, like faith pop quiz, like, fine, got it, totally have faith. Great, let's do it. But you did say you were God. Can I see one time? And then it's pop quiz time. Like, it's like, I don't really think this is what you want. But yet and still, somehow, our supreme person is going to approach it all with this attached detachment. I don't know this supreme quality yet, but somehow he's attached and detached at the same time, because he's a perfect reflector and reciprocator. And how? Because I get really attached to my people. And I was just telling my sister the other day, she was giving advice for like somebody else, some random person. And I was saying, it's so easy to give advice when they're removed. It's so much clearer. I see everybody else's way really clearly. It's like perfect, super simple. You just take a left and two rights, you're fine. And I was like, but could you give that same advice to me? She's like, oh, hell no. I can't let you live your life. What are you saying? I love you too much. So, like, but this is Krishna. Krishna loves us so much that he's doing the complete opposite. So just as we have to like look at this success model and the module of how our life is going to go, and like Danya was saying, take that trajectory, flip it around, and then try and look at it backwards. Change the perspective completely. Krishna is doing the same with us and loving us. One might think it's like, but the closer I am to you, the more I just want to say, wait, don't go there. And Krishna's literally every single time, unless you really want me to say it, I'll just watch it happen.
Mm.
And then when it happens, then we have the nerve to turn around and be like, how could you do this to me? I can't believe you just sit there and do nothing.
Mm.
He's like, well, that's what you wanted me to do. This is love. You want me to sit there and allow you to do the things, but not those things. The $1 million things, yes, I want you to allow me to do those things. But all the other things, I'm gonna need you to yank back my free will when you see me about to get hurt, because nobody likes pain.
Mm.
So we can't pick and choose.
Mm.
And same with obstacles and the pop quizzes and all the tests of faith that come up for every single one of us. We don't get to pick and choose. But we can choose to allow Krishna to intervene.
Mm.
And I think that is been the measure of my success. Did I allow Krishna's interference, or was I blocking it again?
Mm.
Was I playing defense?
Mm. Thank you, Acyuta. Hmm. This is bringing up this idea that Danya spoke about in her counseling work, just the idea of leaving people feeling fully equipped. And I feel like as you were speaking, Acyuta, I was like, yeah, Krishna already knows, and he wants us to know that we're already fully equipped. And that any time that we think that we're not fully equipped, it's because we're simply forgetting our relationship with him. We're forgetting that like actually all of the components are already there. The relationship that we have with Krishna is already there. And we get so stuck on the material things of like how we want it to look like, how we want it to fit into boxes. I worked as a social worker for some time, and so this idea of working yourself out of a job is very familiar to me, that Danya brought up. And it's like that seems in the sense that like I want the person who I'm serving, right? I want them to have the tools to be able to fend for themselves in whatever type of situation it was, right? And so it's so interesting because at least in my work, something that I really noticed is that it was about faith. Like at the end of the day, it really came down to faith, not necessarily like the material things, which, I worked with a lot of people that did not have material things and that were going through it. I specifically worked in like eviction prevention. So people like losing their homes, and I was going to court with them and helping them keep their apartments and stuff. And I noticed that so many of my I'm trying to think of a better word than clients, but that's what we used to call them when I worked with them. So many of the people that I served, like the ones that really kept on having like recidivism, like kept on falling back into the same pothole, right? The same pothole over and over again, were the ones that were just really like really really scared, like really scared, and really like turning away from the space of their heart. And I specifically remember the ones that were like quote unquote reaching some sort of success were the ones that were just like, I'm here for the ride. I'm here for the ride. Somehow or another, I ended up here. It's so interesting because when we walk around New York City, we see so many people on the streets, and it's like all those people have a story. All of those people you have a story. I love Achuta, that your brother Ananta Govinda, he speaks a lot about this, about people on the streets in New York, and it's like they all have a story, and it's like the more I convince myself, I think that like my story got me here, and it's all of these people's faults, and it's all of this society's fault. It's like I'm just going to fall deeper and deeper into that pothole, and I'm not going to be able to get out of it. And if I'm able to somehow or another just see like this is a stop in the road, it might be unfortunate, right? Whether it be like with the people that I was working with, that's a huge thing, like losing your home, or like the people that Danya is working with, it's like people going through relationship issues. That's a huge thing. I feel like being able to look at that, or in spiritual life, right? It's like going through a spiritual crisis. That's a huge thing. It's like, okay, can I understand that this is a stop in the road? Can I understand that like Krishna's with me along this, with me along this part of the story as well? It doesn't end here. I love what Sydney wrote. She said, I have had issues with failure, and I love that, but there is no spiritual failure as long as we are trying and sincere. And then she goes on to say that we have already won. Just continue on the journey hand in hand with Krishna. And it's like really what you were speaking to, Achyuta. It's like, yeah, Krishna's there with us. He's holding our hand. He's letting us know that like everything's gonna be okay. And I think that it's sometimes hard to like really come to that realization. Like I can speak for myself. I'm just like, no, everything is not going to be okay. Like it is tough. It is hard. This morning I was having a moment where I was just like kind of feeling down, and Doyal was like, what's wrong? I was just like, Bhakti Center, things are going on. We're involved in the leadership of the Bhakti Center. So I was just like, I have all these things. And Doyal just gave me a big hug, and he was just like, everything's going to be okay. Like we got this. And I was just like, yeah, everything is going to be okay. You're right. You're right. And it's like I feel like all of those moments are so important that we get from friends and family and people in our life. But even more important than that, I feel like, is remembering that Krishna's there, and Krishna's our best friend, and Krishna's holding our hand, and Krishna's reminding us that like, everything is going to be okay, and I'm here with you, and it's not an aspect of failure and success, right? And he speaks so much about this, right? Failure, success, happiness, or distress, right? It's like we really have to approach it with this mood of detachment and understanding that Krishna's just there with us, rooting for us. We are slowly running out of time, and I kind of want to tap the two of you for any final thoughts that you have on this topic, or anything you would like to say.
One thing I was thinking, and this is always the caveat that I add, because we're like, just have faith, just trust, just detach. This is already won. And I was just thinking, when Achuta was bringing up Arjuna, of Krishna just reassuring him, like, this is already handled. You just have to show up, play your role, and do your thing, be yourself. Really, it would be cute if the Battle of Kurukshetra ended, and then it was just like, all right, ta-da, like everything is fine. But there was serious pain waiting for him. Like his children were murdered in their sleep against all the martial engagement laws. Like there was so much pain waiting. And I feel like that it just goes to show that again, it's not that this process allows you to detach from pain that is coming. You still have to feel the feelings. They're coming. You know what I mean? Like Arjuna, even in full knowledge, after seeing the universal form, Krishna's his best friend. Like he understands everything. Everything is revealed to him. He wept. He mourned. It talks about how the Pandavas and Draupadi, they mourned the death of these children. And so that's important too, which is, this doesn't mean you become unfeeling. This should actually increase our soft-heartedness, not just compassion toward others, but that contact with, actually there is emotion here. I'm not meant to turn cold or aloof or disconnected. I have to feel the feelings to move through this experience with integrity. So that's always the asterisk that I add, which is, yes, faith, but that doesn't mean no feelings. That might even mean increased feelings, because a Vaishnava's heart is very soft. So yeah, I just want to sprinkle that in there too.
Absolutely.
So funny that it was like almost same wavelength brain wave thing. And as a person who's kind of like spent their life trying to figure out this whole faith thing, I tell you, doesn't mean you feel less. And sometimes we don't even know why we're feeling more, but there's all the more feelings. But I like you, Kishore. I am very much the person like, what do you mean it's going to be okay? We don't just say that. That's not just a thing. How is it going to be okay? It's not going to be okay. And let me tell you why. It's because you're God and I'm still me. And I have to handle the things. And you, are also handling the things fine. But it's not going to be okay. I can never argue with him too much about it, because the God thing kind of trumps everything. Haven't figured out a way to argue out of that yet, except for to say, but you don't like it when people think that you're God. So which one is it? Don't send me mixed signals. So but if we look at it, if we look at every of these pastimes, and like Dhanya was saying, sometimes they say 600 million people. Yudhishthira was deeply traumatized. There is so much trauma to be had if we look at all of these spiritual stories. Like Prahlad, if you want to think about an abused child, Prahlad was heavily abused at 5. He he faced death, like he had near death experiences like 9 times.
Mm.
And there was no sign of his father ever stopping or giving up. And nobody around to make him say, like, hey, maybe not the 5-year-old. Maybe let's just wait, give him a second. Maybe after puberty it changes. Like maybe he'll be okay. No, they were gonna go in line with what his father wanted. So, but if we look at all of these people and how they allowed their faith to carry them through that trauma, um, you know, Doyle's wife Rosika was asking me, she's like, how do you maintain your faith or keep your faith? I'm like, it's the crappy moments. It's the pushing through with faith past the point where my heart wants to say, no, let's protect ourselves and close up completely. And the rest of us says, but we never really get anywhere when we do that. At least keep it open to Krishna. Like at least keep the faith there. And every time I have done it, no matter what has happened, it's always been worth it.
Mm. 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 Thank you, Achyuta. Thank you, Danya. And before we close out, as always, we're going to go to our dear friend Kimberly, who's always taking notes and always has amazing takeaways. So, what you got for us today, Kimberly?
All right. So I got that success doesn't mean that you're just over things, but it's more so that you're ready and equipped to confront it with the tools that resonate with you. And the biggest success stories are when there's a shift in perspective and a shift in priorities, and letting go of the expectations and the boxes we make of what our lives are supposed to look like. And faith is most aligned with love rather than control, and that there's never any failure or loss, and that we've already won. And I just really appreciate this discussion and perspective, because I feel like it helps me be more compassionate and forgiving on this path. So thank you so much.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Kimberly. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in to Spirit Matters. We'll be back tomorrow at our normal time, 8 a.m. Eastern, not our normal time, but we'll be back at 8. We've been having to adjust our times since we're here in India, but Achyuta is a trooper. She's showing up no matter what, if it's at 7, if it's at 8, if it's at 6:45. Thank you, Achyuta. And for everyone listening out there on podcast platforms, please remember to rate and review this podcast. And we're so grateful for each and every one of you, and we'll see you tomorrow. Thank you all so much.